Welcome to the Cannon Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Ryan from Cannon Sports, and joining me today in the studio, we have the first family of professional disc golf, the Rico brothers, Steven and Bamba. Rico, guys, thanks so much for joining me.
Oh, thanks for having us. How's it going out there?
Thanks for having us.
Awesome, guys. So let's start at the start. Where are you guys from?
We're from right here in Silmar, California.
Yeah, born and raised here.
Awesome, man. And how long have you guys been doing disc golf?
This year's our 36th year of playing the sport of disc golf.
Yeah, we joined the PDGA. We got our professional numbers. When you sign up, you get a number. And we signed up in 1988. So we've been doing this a long time.
Yeah, before that, though, we were still playing. Pops took us up to the park. We fell in love with the sport, and we're playing ever since.
That's amazing. So that was going to be my first question. Like, how did you guys get into disc golf? Like, at what age, or like, were you guys, just into Frisbee as like a recreational thing? And like, where did the disc golf, like the actual sport of disc golf, how was that introduced into your guys' life?
Well, for us, introduced was a course got put into Silmar Veterans Park, and this was around 84, 85. It got put in 82. We were introduced about 85 by my dad. He went up there one day, played it with some buddies. He loved it, and one day decided to take us up there as kids. I was 11. I think my bro was 6. And immediately we just wanted to go up there every day and start playing. So once we met, some of the guys up there, my dad got us a couple of golf discs, and from there we just started playing since we were little.
Awesome, man. Now we got a lot of ground to cover, man, because I think for myself and probably for most people watching, man, like disc golf is something that I think everyone kind of knows what it is, but I don't know that everyone knows like the intricacy, the discs and the bags and everything. At what point did you guys did you play other sports growing up?
Yeah, we played other sports. We did Little League and football and things like that. But once we met the sport of disc golf, that was everything. We started just going on from there and playing events and tournaments. And we both took on our own events. I mean, we started off as juniors, then went into a little bit of the amateur division a little bit, and then we just went to pro events, and we just traveled after that.
Now, what is like the history of professional disc golf, or even disc golf as a sport? Like, when did disc golf really get started?
I think it started in
It started in the early 70s.
Yeah, it started in the 70s.
And it started with just a post in the ground that people had to hit as a target. And then over the years, it developed into a chain configuration called, a disc golf. They call it targets. They call it baskets. And then they started putting them in the ground. So the object of the sport is when you take a golf disc, you hole out at the end when you hit the chains, and it rests in the chain cradle. So the principles are the same as what you would look at in ball golf with pars, birdies, bogeys, and things like that. We have tee pads, and the baskets are our holes. And scoring is very similar. We have water hazards. We have out of bounds. So the terminology and some of the rules are the same as your traditional golf.
Now I do a little bit of golfing myself. I'm a 15 handicap. What up?
Nice.
Now, so for like when I go play like a standard 18-hole course, it's usually like par 71, par 72. What's like a standard par for like a disc golf course?
Well, it started out as par 54, 18 holes. Everything was par 3. Back in the 90s, nowadays we have par 4s and par 5s. So a lot of disc golf courses are starting to move from parks onto actual private golf courses now, or private land, and where you can expand the courses. There's 1,000-foot holes now, which are par 5s, and you got to maneuver to the trees, over water, that kind of thing now. So the sport is actually growing. A lot of these young kids now are throwing, 700 feet, 800 feet, and controlling these golf discs now. So the courses are getting bigger as the sport is constantly evolving.
That's amazing. Now, like I said, so I'm a golfer. So like for me, par 5 on a ball golf course, I hear par 5, I'm thinking probably 5, maybe 600 yards. You're saying like a par 5 in disc golf about 1,000?
Yeah, we measure more in feet.
Okay, 1,000 feet.
Yeah, 1,000 feet.
So what's so like a drive, right? Like I'm playing a TaylorMade N1. TaylorMade, hit me up, all right? You can sponsor me. I play like a TaylorMade M1. I'm lucky if I get it 220. Like the pros hitting about 300. What's like a you guys are, on the tee box, you're about to drive. What's like a good distance for a disc golf drive, do you think?
Well, for the average player that's going out, they're probably getting 350 to 400. But once you get to the competitive level, these guys are throwing more like 500 to 600. And you know, when we say the pars range, you know, somewhere around 1,000 feet, that doesn't necessarily mean it's just a straight 1,000-foot shot. It's 1,000 foot to an opening before you go into a wood shot, or the green is surrounded by obstacles like water, even sand traps and things like that. So it's not just a straight 1,000 foot. There's a lot of stuff involved in that 1,000 feet. Yeah. So we have you know, unlike traditional golf though, we have a lot of trees, a lot of obstacles, a lot of things that we're throwing over.
Yeah, a lot of uneven grounds, hills, elevations, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so that 1,000 feet is not just a straight wide open 1,000 foot.
Yeah. Now standard golf bag, 14 clubs. How many discs you get? You know, I've seen some of the videos. You've got the bags and everything. It looks very much like a golf bag, except it's discs. How many discs do you guys have in your bag when you're playing events?
I personally carry about 30 discs, which I kind of overkill a little bit. I got issues with it, but you know, we don't have just one putter. You know, we carry 4 or 5 putters, and they all fly a little bit different. You know, we carry our fairway drivers, which will carry 3 or 4 different fairway drivers, 3 or 4 distance drivers. So by the time you get to some of your specialty discs, you know, you have discs that have been in your bag for 10 years, and they start to, as you break them in, hit more trees, they start to turn and do different things in the air, and you get really attached to that kind of a disc. You use it for certain shots. So there's a lot of different discs that you'll use out there. So it's sometimes, you know, like I have a disc in my bag that's 15 years old, and I only use it for certain shots, but I can't take it out of my bag because I need it, you know?
Yeah.
So
now, is there a difference when we're talking about fairway drivers versus putters versus, like, I don't know if you guys have, like, what the equivalent of, like, an iron or a wedge would be? Is it a difference in weight? Is it a difference in size? What's kind of the difference, or what makes it, you know, like, so for instance, what makes a driver in disc golf?
A driver for disc golf is usually a little more aerodynamic, a little sharper edge. It's made for distance. I mean, that's primarily what it does. It's going to have a lot of movement to it. You're going to have to put it on a certain angle to get it to carry through the wind, to get it to carry, you know, with the wind, and give you that little bit of an extra edge. As you get down in like a fairway driver is a little more controllable. The rim is not as deep, so you can get a better grip on it. It has less movement than a big driver, so you can throw it and it'll keep a straighter flight. And then you go down to your mid-ranges, which are a little more blunt. There's not a lot of movement. They're made to fly straight. They don't have a lot of distance to them, but those are the ones in your bag that you really feel confident with because you can control them in shorter woods shots, say. And then you go down to your putter, which is the most rounded of all the discs in your bag. It's not made for distance. It's made to just fly on a straight line. That is for your shorter range putting, you know, 40, 50, 60 feet. Some people do throw them off the tee pad for shorter drives, but there is very little movement, very, very little glide. It's made to just go from A to B in a short span. And that's part of the disc you have to have the most confidence in. You're going to have 3 or 4 of them, and you're going to use them for all your stuff around the green.
Awesome. Now, what are the different kinds of shots? So, for instance, like when I first started playing golf, man, I would just slice. You know, I'm a righty, so that means my ball was just going to the right. Like, it would start off straight and just start slicing. And actually, yeah, I was telling you guys before we started the pod, like we were trying to shoot a bit of a disc golf video. Every disc that I threw was doing like the opposite of what my golf shot does. It was just, it would get up in the air. I was like, oh, that went straight. And before I knew it, like it was hitting the building. What are like some of the different shots? Like I know in ball golf, there's like, you know, you have a fade, you have a draw. Some guys hit a hook on accident or some guys hit a slice on accident. Right. What's kind of the trajectory of the disc when you guys are like looking at beginners versus pros in disc golf?
Well, as a beginner, you want to use the most understable disc you can. That's going to give you the flattest flight and the most distance as a beginner. As you start to become more experienced, you're going to start to change automatically with your throw, and you're going to start throwing more stable discs or overstable discs. Those are the ones that will bank toward at the end of the spin. It'll bank more, almost like you're you know, you said you have a hook shot, yep. Something like that. So. The way the discs get worked in is how they're going to start to fly. It's a little bit different than when you have a club that you're just going to slice. The discs have a lot to do with that. As they're worked in, they're going to turn more. As they're brand new, they're going to stay overstable.
Yeah. Now, so you guys started young, and so it sounds like disc golf really as a sport kind of in the 70s. You guys got into it, what, late 70s, early 80s?
In the mid 80s, yeah.
So you guys were kind of there at the start. Now, fast forward, we're in 2021. Like, if you're a youth disc golfer, what kinds of, are there tournaments? Are there school teams? Or like, where does a kid who wants to get into disc golf go?
Your local parks. There's a lot of players now out in your local parks. They're in schools now, colleges. You can go online and find your local pros. There's just about every city's got some type of leagues going on at their local parks and tournaments, like just small weeklies and monthly tournaments where you can get introduced to the game and learn about it. And then you want to take it to another level, then you can join the organization and start to travel around playing sanctioned events and kind of just work your way up from there. But the sport is growing so massively now that it's pretty easy to find a local course and get into that whole thing.
And if you decide you're going to get competitive, you literally can play a tournament every week within driving distance of you. I mean, we can drive up and down California in general and play a tournament every single week in between Northern California and Southern California. So there's plenty of things out there for you, plenty of events for you to get into if you want.
Yeah. It's interesting you're saying the parks and the colleges and stuff. I think one of the first times I ever saw a disc golf course, and this is probably late 90s. I grew up out by Pomona, and it was, we have the Claremont colleges out there. And I can't remember if it was like McKenna or Scripps. One of the Claremont colleges, there was like a disc golf course. And I remember I was asking my dad, what is that? He was like, oh, you throw Frisbees at that. It's like golf, but with the disc. I was like, that's one of the coolest things I've ever heard. So you guys get into the sport in like the mid 80s. You guys go pro in 88. What is the PDGA? How many events are there? How does one get into that? And kind of what is how many tournaments are you playing a year if you're a professional disc golf player?
Well, the PDGA stands for Professional Disc Golf Association. They monitor all of our points throughout the year. They're the ones who run and help with some of the major events that there's now this year there's probably 20 to 30 tournaments that we consider huge or major in our organization. It's grown over the years. We used to have regular, just smaller tournaments, throughout the country. Now there's an actual circuit. So the PDGA organizes what goes where and how to track points and how to give people invitations to these events. They also govern the rules if there's rules changes. They also govern a lot of just the promotions for the sport in general. And they're kind of the ones who just oversee everything, and they're growing us at a pace that that they can, I guess, hold on to. But they've been there since the beginning. They've done a good job. They've done a good job promoting. They've started a lot of other side ventures, promotions, unlike the Edge program and growing in the youth, things like that. They've done a lot of stuff where they've traveled into putting disc golf courses in other countries. So they've done a great job in their promotions for it.
Now, when you guys joined in '88, what was the level of competition? How many players were there? What was it like for you guys being, you're professional disc golf players now? In 1988, you're traveling, you're playing tournaments. What was that like?
Well, in '88 is when we joined the PDGA. Yeah. We were still young. We were still junior. I was still a junior. He was playing amateur. But as we turned pro in like 94. I think I turned pro in 94. He was a little bit earlier than me. But, back then you played a tournament. There was it wasn't a whole lot of players in it, There'd probably be 60 to 70 players in an event. But this whole circuit was a lot smaller now. There's so many more tournaments now. There's so many great professionals now with high rankings. So as a sport is nowadays, you have to almost have like a tour card now, just like the PGA Tour, to play some of these events now. So it's a lot harder to play a lot of these major events. We have our majors just like golf has their majors. So you got to get your tour card and that kind of thing nowadays.
Yeah, and that was actually going to be my next question. So in the PGA and Tour golf, there's the U.S. Open, there's the British Open, now the Open Championship, there's the Masters, and there's I think the PGA Championship or like the Players.
Yeah.
What are the majors in disc golf?
Well, going on this week is actually our U.S. Open in South Carolina. So if any of your viewers want to check that out, they can go on and look that up. It's the U.S. Open Disc Golf Tournament. It's in South Carolina. That is one of our biggest and largest premier events. So that's like one of our crown jewels. From there on, there's still large events, but they're kind of scattered throughout the country. But that one is one that's on a circuit that nobody misses. That's the one you want to be at.
I think right before you guys got here, I think I was showing Nishan on YouTube. There was a video of this guy. I think it was like a 274-foot birdie that he hit. And I think it might have been at a U.S. Open, but the crowds were huge, and they were going nuts, man. Like, it was so cool to watch. And I watch a lot of PGA golf, a lot of ball golf. And outside, like, we just had the Ryder Cup, so the crowds are a little more lively. Obviously,
Right.
like the Phoenix Open, the crowds are a little, but for the most part, like, I went to U.S. Open in Torrey Pines in 2008. Everybody's hushed. You're not allowed to talk. What are the crowds like, especially as the sport has grown and the crowds get bigger? What are the crowds like at a pro disc golf tour event?
Well, nowadays they're quite big now. This just started happening where they just started charging to fees to go out there and follow being part of the crowd and follow the top cards out there. So this just became a thing just probably about 2 years ago. So the crowds are growing now. That shot that you saw, I was at the World Championships. I was actually there.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's constantly growing now. They have a lot of crowd control out there. They have certain spots and stands out there now built so the crowd can be out there and watching from the stands now. So, this has just really became a thing just recently in the last couple of years.
Very cool. And what's the demeanor? So, like I said, like at a PGA event, very quiet. You get the little golf claps.
Yeah.
Like the hush comes over the crowd, like guys on the tee, and you've got the guys holding up the quiets. Is it similar with disc golf, or is there a little more rowdiness in the crowd? I mean, it seems like obviously from that shot, people are running into the fairway and like kind of crowding the player.
Right.
It's something really fun that you like
Yeah.
to see in sports that sometimes I don't want to say it's missing from golf because from regular, from ball golf because every sport has its own kind of identity, but it certainly is like it's fun. I think one of the things people love about sports is getting to cheer and getting to like go crazy, and you
Right.
don't see that a ton in ball golf. How is it in disc golf?
Well, in disc golf, it's similar when we're out there playing. You still got we still got our demeanors out there. We still got to be quiet when people are throwing. We still got to, give them the respect so they can concentrate and things like that. It's a very slow sport, kind of methodical where, we're walking up fairways. We're kind of in the zone. We're looking at our next shot. And so everybody's still really low key, but there is a lot of excitement being that it's also a young sport. It's a lot younger than traditional ball golf. So a lot of times there is a lot of emotion. There's a lot of impact out there for some of these young players, and people get excited. So when a lot of these shots go on, people do go nuts out there, and everybody has their fans. And so there is a lot of reaction in our sport, probably more so than a traditional ball golf. But we still got to be very low-key out there while everybody's playing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, respect the players for sure, but it is fun to see that, that shot. And I've seen some other disc golf events, and it is really cool. Somebody hits a long shot. You see the crowd going nuts. So you guys joined the professional tour in '94. When did you really start seeing, what was it like in '94? When did you really start seeing the growth of kind of what it's become today?
Well, since we started, it's been growing, and we kind of judge that by how many new courses and how many tournaments are being played now. Like I said, now, back in the day, we used to have to drive to Northern California to actually play a big event. We'd go out there maybe once a month through the 90s to play some of these tournaments. And the big events we seem to be out there. And just over the years, there's more events in the ground. There's more tournament directors. There's more sponsors. There's more manufacturers, even like us. There's more manufacturers in the game now where the sport has enough support now where it can hold tournaments anywhere, and you're going to get a full field. So, you're going to get your full 90 to 200 people playing the event. So now anybody who is inspired enough to run an event, they can and they can fill. So now we see it all over the place, and that's how we can tell the sport is growing. There's constant movement. There's constant evolution in sponsors, in new discs, in bigger events, bigger purse, better courses. So the entire sport has been generating, this by all together in one shot. It's not one thing is moving another. The entire sport is elevating altogether.
Now, so And that's really cool to hear. Now, you guys, 94, the pro tournament, you said to me before the interview, Steven's the guy, the savant of disc golf, right? What are some of the bigger tournaments that you guys have played in and won? And, how many wins do you guys have?
For me, they're all earlier because I haven't played as competitive over the years, just with starting business stuff. I've got about 35 wins underneath my belt. But, my brother Steve, he's the one that's still playing. He's still grinding it out, getting practice. And even though we have a company that we have to run, he's finding time to try to keep on competing out there with some of the younger generations out there. And he's been doing very well at it. But like I said, it just with the way things have developed, even for us, it is tougher nowadays to keep it up. But he's still the guy to beat at most of these tournaments.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you got the young bucks coming after you now, right? Like every year there's got to be younger and younger guys, more and more guys that are coming after you. What are some of the big wins that you've got under your belt, Steven?
I have a lot of smaller wins that are local, and but I have a couple Japan Open titles.
Wow.
I got 5 national tour titles, and it's kind of different events around the country. So there's different there's like majors, and then there's some just under the majors. So I got over 100 wins total.
Woo.
But there's the U.S. Open's going on. I didn't have a chance to get out there and play it this week, so there's a lot of young kids out there now doing this. They're all 19, 20 years old now. I'm in my 40s now, so I had a chance to be out there. I couldn't make it this week, but I could still go out there and compete with the best of them and still be right there. But it takes a lot of practice and a lot of time out of legacy and different things like that. So it just gets tougher and tougher.
Yeah. Now, as a player, you mentioned practice. What is the practice like? When we have Hanson Dam golf course right over here. I go out there sometimes in lunch and just hit balls at the range. Is there like an equivalent of like a driving range? Like when you're practicing, is it just practicing drives over and over again, practicing short games, things like that?
Yeah, pretty much. When you're getting ready for a big event, I go out to to a wide open park or a baseball field and just constantly just throw shots and learn my discs. Learn how far I'm throwing certain shots, and then put a lot of time in on the putting greens. I'll go to Veterans Park and I'll just sit there and putt for a couple hours. So most of my practice is done off the golf course, and just to prepare myself for when I step onto the course that I'm playing, that I know all the shots, I'm good around the greens, and I'm ready to go.
Yeah. Now, what is the strategy? Like you hear in ball golf a lot, like the big difference between like a tour player versus like, a club pro or something is the course management, is knowing walking the course, knowing how to attack, knowing kind of where you want your setups to be. Like, what's the strategy out on a disc golf course for you?
It's exactly the same thing. You want to know where all the trouble's at. You want to know where to place your shots. You want to know all the different slopes around the green. So you got to take in consideration a lot of wind out there. The wind really makes a lot of movement on our disc.
Yeah, I was going to say probably even more than ball golf.
Right,
Wind's got to be a huge factor.
So the wind's always a huge factor on how you want to place certain shots around the water. So you got to get out there to some of these tournaments, play the course, 3 or 4 times before you actually step on. And when the tournament starts, you got to really know what to consider, what to take on out there.
One thing that has changed over the last couple of years is the technology, and especially with COVID going on and stuff. Now everything's tracked on their phones because a lot of times they don't want scorecards being passed around as much. They want, the distancing and things like that. So now everything's accessible on your phone. The reason I'm saying that is because now you can look on your phone and see where you're at as opposed to the field. So now if you have to be more aggressive and go for things as opposed to before. You wanted to play well, but you still had to stay within your game because you don't want to lose, ground. So now you could look at your score and go, okay, well, I'm back. I'm going to be going for everything. And that's different. That's one thing that's been different over the last couple of years than we've seen in the past. Now everybody can just see where they're at and say, okay, well, I want to win. I don't, if I'm taking 8th or 1st, and that ground in the middle, sometimes it doesn't matter to people. They want the win. So now they're going nuts because they know where they're at, looking at their phones and seeing where they're at. That's something that's only been implemented the last couple of years. Before that, it wasn't like that.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Interesting. Now you guys mentioned so we talked about the wind, obviously, which like with a Frisbee, even more so than with like a golf ball, the wind's a huge factor. And then you said something earlier about the trees. what is like the strategy of I mean, I guess you're trying not to get in the trees, but once you're in the trees, like what are some of the different, like I've seen front-handed throws, I've seen low, like what are some of the strategies of getting out of the trees, still trying to save par, things like that?
Well, I mean, as a newer golfer, you usually have one traditional throw. It's either a backhand or a forehand. But as you start to become more experienced and you start to play out there on the tour, you start to realize that you have a lot more things that you need to learn. So, you know, a lot of the competitive players out there, they have a backhand, they have a forehand, and they have a roller where they land it on edge and it rolls, you know, on the ground for, you know, added distance. But now a lot of people have a thumber where they'll throw it up in the air almost like they would throw a baseball throw, and it'll flip in the air and it'll come down straight on edge and usually stick. So there's about 8 to 10 different shots that you can learn that will all give you added tools on the golf course.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's no different than golf itself. Like the more I play golf, the more I'm like, oh my God, all these different shots and like all these different, and it sounds very similar. With the rules of disc golf, so you're on the tee box, you throw your drive. Is it from where it stops moving? From what I can surmise, you got to have a foot basically on that spot for your next throw.
Yeah, from the shot off the tee box where it comes to rest, you have, and then you mark it. You have a little mini marker, you mark it, and then that's your lie. So now you can actually back up and take a run up, but you have to stop behind your lie and release the disc. You can actually fall forward after the throw, but that's the way you play it. Yeah, your release point.
Very cool. Now you guys have talked about it a little bit, but I want to get into it. It's the 10-year anniversary. You guys, not only the first family of disc golf as players, but now the first family of disc golf in terms of producers of the equipment. Legacy Golf. When did this start, and what was the idea behind it?
Well, Legacy's definitely been there since the early days. This is our 10-year anniversary for Legacy Discs. We are manufacturing our own disc here locally, right here in San Fernando Valley. There were other disc golf manufacturers before, but not as many were really like owner players, and that's where we came. So we developed our disc based on what we needed, honestly, and as we've been getting more and more developed into the plastic side of it, the molds. There's so much going on that we're having to constantly adjust to with the sport in just technology on discs, distance, what's going to go further, what's going to grip better. So we really have to be well-rounded in all parts of the game with what we manufacture.
Now, what did you guys bring to the? There were, obviously there were people that were making the disc before. Right. You guys are one of the first that are kind of player owners now. What did you guys bring to the table as players yourselves that you were able to see, like, this is some things that we can't find in disc that we want to start creating ourselves?
I think a big advantage for us is the plastic feel, the way the grippiness is to it. A lot of discs out there seem to be a little slicker. We have a lot more grip to some of our stuff. A lot of manufacturers do make good products. For us in particular, we're constantly trying to make things that are better. Like I said, the grippiness for the weather. We have a certain tread on the top of our disc that give you more grip for when you're putting. There's a lot of things that we want to see, and we always felt like if we want to see them, we're going to make them because we know others might want that as well.
Yeah. And what do they say? If you do what you love, you never work a day in your life. What's like a day? I mean, how much of the testing are you guys doing? Obviously, you kind of know what you're looking for in a disc as players. And then once a disc comes out in like a prototype, is it you guys just taking it out and testing it?
Yeah, pretty much. It comes out of the machine. We grab it, feel it, and then, Rob will go out. We'll go to the park. We'll do some videos of it. We'll do some testing on it. And then, we'll throw it into the block wall to test the durability of these things, So it's fun. It's a lot of work, but it's fun as well, too.
We've also had some molds that we've thrown, we didn't like them, and we've retooled them. And then we did it again, and we retooled it again. So the one bad thing about it is that we're perfectionists, and we know what we want.
Yeah.
So if that doesn't come out right either, we're saying, okay, it's not ready, let's do it again. And that's the hard part about it. And you mentioned earlier, you have something you love and it never becomes work. That's not true. We got into the sport because we got into the manufacturing because we thought we'll be here, we love it, it's gonna be great. It's actually work. We've never had to deal with so much in our life. We also work with tournaments across the country, worldwide also. So they order just from us, and we have deadline after deadline after deadline. This event is coming up. This has to get out. you know, or we got to produce this. We got to get the shirts ready for these guys. We got to stamp these discs, or we have to make these discs. It's a constant timeline for us. You know, so sometimes, believe me, we want to be out there playing and enjoying, you know, what we do, but sometimes it is a constant, you know, work. I mean, we have guys like Rafael who really lighten the load and they kind of manage the situation for us. But it's, I mean, by no means, I mean, it is work. It's crazy work.
Yeah.
We love it, but it's work.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are some of the, like, is it similar to golf clubs? Like, you know, I'm a golf fan, obviously. So it's like every year the new drivers come out, the new iron sets come out. Are you guys kind of putting out new types of discs every so often, doing like new research to kind of come up with like better models, things like that?
Yeah, I mean, actually, yeah. I mean, up until this last year, Legacy Disc was coming out with 1 to 2 molds every year. And then we went into COVID for a minute, so nobody was doing anything for a bit. So everybody kind of put things on hold. And then it went from nothing to all of a sudden crazy busy. Now it's like we don't even have time to try to come up with some new molds at the moment because production is going so nuts for us. And again, that goes along with tournaments. So us supplying tournaments and stores like that have kept us so busy. And Legacy's never had a time like this where it's been so demanding.
Yeah, and I'm sure it sounds like it's a great time to get into golf too. I mean, you know, COVID's still kind of going on, so being outdoors is a great thing. It's a great activity. I mean, you want to, you know, something to look forward to do outside. Disc golf, there you have it right there.
And Legacy Disc we have 24 molds now. And we have your big drivers, we have your putter, all the way to your putters. We have some that are going left, some that are straight flyers for every need out there. And as soon as we catch up, we plan on making 2 more molds again for some of the upcoming season.
Now, if somebody listening to this was interested in Legacy Disc, where can they find you guys?
They can go to legacydisc.com, or they can check out our Facebook page or the Legacy Disc Instagram page, and they can find out all about what we're doing, what's coming up, what's new. They can also go to legacydiscproshop.com as well.
Awesome. And now with the Legacy Discs, like, you know, kids wanting to get into it, pros, whoever, I mean, is there kind of like a disc for everybody there?
There is definitely a disc for everybody there. And also, too, I mean, they can check out some of the stuff that we've done. I mean, a lot of our discs have my brother Steve and Rafael. They have videos on everything of us throwing them, what they do, the flight characteristics, the flight pattern, and they can get general knowledge of what our discs do.
Yeah, we have a lot of different weight classes, too. We have ultralights for the young kids, you know, for women that come into the sport. We have a lot of lighter stuff. So we have a variety of different stuff that'll fit the player who comes into the game.
That's awesome, man. So as we're winding down, what's next for you guys?
Next is just to constantly just grow with the sport. You know, we're constantly trying to figure out the next best thing that, you know, that we can do. We do a lot of traveling, we do a lot of promotion, a lot of talking to people. You know, we want people to love the sport in general. I mean, I know Legacy is a manufacturer, and I want to tell everybody, you know what? Yeah, go out there and throw Legacy disc, but I want people to get out there and play disc golf. It's done a lot for us. I don't know where we would have gone in life had we not started playing so young. So, you know, for even a lot of the parents out there that are listening, disc golf is a sport that kids can get into. It's an individual sport. It's not a team event. They don't have to run up and down the court. They don't have a lot of pressure on them to do a certain thing, you know, and everybody having eyes on them. They can just start off by going to a park. They can just start playing, seeing if they like it, seeing if they enjoy it, and then they can take the sport as far as they want from there. So I just you know, want people to get out there and play the sport of disc golf.
Awesome. And last question, this is something I like to do to end every interview, and this will be for both of you guys. What has sports done for you?
I mean, for me, I mean, obviously it's my livelihood. Sports has done so much for me. You know, like I said, I don't know where I would have gone in life in general had it not been for sports. You know, it's built character in me, it's built character in my family, and now it's taken us to where we're actually making a living, you know, in disc golf, which is our sport. So I couldn't be more blessed.
Awesome. Steven, same question.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. You know, we grew up playing sports, and you know, I played football and baseball and all that. And then once I found disc golf, you know, that was my love right there. You know, and then you know, we just as we got into it, and I got great at it, and I started traveling. I met a lot of friends, and basically, it's a big family community of disc golf. It's taken me around the world, and now, you know, we're making a living doing it. I'm still pretty competitive where I'm at now. So, yeah, we're blessed.
That's awesome. Well, I can't thank you guys enough for coming in, telling us about Legacy, telling us about the sport of disc golf. It sounds like it's only onward and upward from here. Thank you guys for tuning in. I've been your host, Ryan, at Cannon Sports. Check us out on Instagram at Cannon Sports, on TikTok at Cannon Sports Official. Check out Legacy Golf. Thanks again to Bamba and Stephen Rico for stopping by. We will see you guys next time.
Thanks for having us.